You can, if you wore this to city council or to school or to any, that screams black preacher. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm Dr. Akeem Walker, and I get to, on his podcast, co-host with the Jalen Vernon. Listen, in any men's department store, there is no section that's called church wear, but you can wear everything in that store to church, but you cannot wear some of the things you would wear to church to a business meeting. Let's jump in to this conversation.
Man, that's good stuff. I'm Jalen. I am a guest on my YouTube channel. Glad to be here with Dr. Akeem Walker. And like he said, there is no section in stores for church, right?
Yeah.
There is, whether you go into K&G, Suit Supply, Armani, wherever you go, it's no church section. So you need some guidance. And as we discussed in previous episodes, that sometimes we learn by trial and error. Sometimes we learn whether the good or bad from the examples, whether that's our fathers, uncles, pastors, whoever in our lives. So what would you say from your experience, from your point of view, what are some of the differences between business professional, business casual, or church wear, as we would call it?
One, I think we don't know the distinction between all three of those, right? That I think the best model out of those three would be the business wear. I think it's safe to say what you're wearing is a business wear. You have a notch lapel suit, black tie, white shirt, the blue, even though it's window pane, is still subtle. You can go from a city council meeting to a revival. And if the CEO of Apple called you, you could jump on a Zoom. Right. So I think this is a safe model for what we call business wear. Right. What I am wearing would be deemed as business casual. I have on some trousers or slacks that I had with the drawstring waist, right, which is as casual as it comes. I have on casual sneakers, and then I have on a blazer and a white shirt. So I could go, I could go to a city council meeting, or to a parent-teacher conference, or teach a Bible study in this, depending on the church. But then there are some things that if I walked in a pulpit like this in certain spaces, it's like, what's going on, right? And I know modern day church, depending on context, does matter, right? But I have limits to this, right? I wouldn't necessarily wear this on a Sunday morning per se, and particularly I have on sneakers, right? Depending on where I work, this could be a great outfit. It's a safe outfit for work. But if I'm leaving the office at 6 o'clock and you call me and say, hey, I need a preacher to fill in, I don't have a tie. So I think there's a limit to that, right? And then our mannequin here has what we would, this is black church convention, right? It's a wide peak lapel, one button. We have the pleated pockets, the cover buttons. This is good. And if we, I don't know if we can turn it around. Oh yeah. The mannequin, it has the belt on the back. You can, if you wore this to city council or to school or to any, that screams black preacher. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because that's what we are. I think you have to know what outfits to wear, right? And more importantly, how you want to be addressed. You and I both have on a white cuff shirt. One of the things that happens in custom clothes too is that they put your name on. That's a embroidered on the sleeve. For probably the last year or so, I haven't done it because I started watching some guys and they were talking about how, I mean, it's a great touch, but that screams a particular genre of people, right? And if you're going to do an embroider, maybe you want to do like your first initial last name, but you don't want to do like you've seen some people with the whole scribble of their signature. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's preference. But I think you've said in an earlier video, you want your clothes to be classic and timeless, not dated.
You don't want to go for dated. I think, I don't know if this is even related, but when I preach, one of my prayers is I want my sermons to be timely and timeless. So I want you to be able to come 10 years from now and be like, man, he sound like he preached. You know what I'm saying? Because when you listen to some of the classics from back in the day and some of these great preachers, and you like, man, this sounds like, even though this was in the 60s,
right now.
This sounds, because they were just classic.
Yes.
They kept it in a pocket, you know. And so in the same way in menswear, I think for me at least, and maybe this is not sure, maybe you hop on fast fashion and different trends. But I tend to, just lean towards the more something that's a little bit more classic and timeless. And so I graduated, shameless plug, from the illustrious Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. Yes. Now, we were taught that Hampton Business Pro is black suit, white shirt, black tie, black belt, black shoes. That's it. We call it the penguin suit because you look like a penguin wearing it.
Right.
Now, Hampton is very conservative, private, historically black college university. And so in the real world per se, I think business professional, it doesn't have to be as restricted. Would you say, is that fair to say?
No, because I would debunk that by saying the former president of that institution.
That's right.
I've never seen him in a black suit, white shirt, black tie. I've always seen him in blue.
That's a fact.
With a red tie because because the red tie is a power tie.
That's a fact.
And so I think at its basis, that's a safe start, right? Both of us are ministers of the gospel. We're grateful that God uses us. And I tell people, the Reverend Dr. Marcus D. Cosby of the Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church is probably the best person when it comes to the black preacher uniform.
Yes.
I don't think if he had to put on anything else to preach in, he would melt in the pulpit. But it looks good on him.
That's a fact.
Like it's the preacher's uniform. And we're not saying that you have to wear black, white shirt, black tie, but I think it speaks to that I'm not focused on my garments as the main draw, right? And like you said, it's timeless, it's classic. Black will never go out of style.
Never.
And so I think to what the institution at Hampton was trying to instill is that there is a standard, right? My boss, Pastor Sloan, has this thing where you can either be exceptional or you can be acceptable. You got to figure out what you want, So I think when you put on a black suit, white shirt, black tie, because then you have people, you're at Hampton, but if you go over to Morehouse, their business pro may be a little different, right?
Right. So it looks different depending on your context. But I think it's safe to say that if you're in business environment, now I say don't get a black suit as your first suit. I don't think that's the most versatile choice.
Say more.
I would go for a navy suit. If you can only get one suit, your first suit, I would go navy. Because to me at least, you can wear with brown shoes, you can wear with black shoes. You can dress it up, dress it down a little bit easier. You can wear it with a white shirt, with a baby blue shirt.
Yes.
That's just me.
No, you really have. Jalen, you just on to something. Because I think historically, again, this is sometimes in our limited mind space, right? I would immediately go to black, but that's because I wear black and I would feel like, but I'm thinking church, right? But if you're talking about versatile, I would say navy, or even I would meet you halfway and say a gray. Because a gray is neutral,
gray. And so it like I said, it just kind of depends on your context and all of that. But I think for business settings, a black suit is safe.
Yes.
Navy suit is safe. Even something around this color might be safe, depending. Charcoal, your charcoal, darker grays is safe. Like you said, there is a difference between this stylistically, in business. But let's pivot and talk about a little bit more of our particular context. As you mentioned, we are both ministers by the grace of God. By the grace of God alone. Y'all hear me? It's only by the grace of God. That
Paul says, I am what I am, but by the grace of God.
By the grace. And so with us being preachers, like you said, Dr. Cosby, he sticks traditionally to his black suit, black tie, and white shirt. For a young preacher, someone who might be watching this, what would you say is that safe? Do you think that's their best bet to stay kind of within that wheelhouse if they're getting into ministry, they're just starting to preach out? And when or at what point do you think they should start to venture maybe to blue or charcoal, or does it depend on, the engagement, the type of church, or what are some things that we should consider as younger preachers when we think about attire and preaching the word?
So one, I think that's a great question, right? That I don't think most of us consider when being invited somewhere. I think we focus on the sermon, but people see you before they hear you.
That's a fact.
Right? Even your picture that you send to the church, right?
Yep.
And so I think one of the things that has to be considered, if you are not a pastor, I think you have to let your pastor set the temperature of how you dress. Not that you have to be a clone, right? I tell people all the time, I'm the executive pastor, thank God, at the Luke Church with Dr. Timothy Sloan. And not that I like to wear jeans, but I don't preach in jeans because I don't like the way they stick to me when I sweat, right? But one thing you will never see at the Luke Church is Pastor Sloan in jeans. I don't know, in 2 years I've seen them in a pair of jeans but one time, and that definitely wasn't at church.
Wow.
When you step into that pulpit at the Luke Church, it's either a robe or a suit and a tie, right? You might can get away with not wearing a tie, but that's still gonna be like, in the preaching moment, right? And so granted, I came to the church dressing, but even how I dress, right? The Luke Church is not a very flamboyant church. So you kind of want to go back to the word you say, the classic, timeless, right? So I think you have to let your pastor be the model. Now, if you go to a context where there's some more stylish preachers that may not be into the robes or the suits, and you can get away with tucking your shirt in and showing your Gucci belt and preaching in jeans, that's good. But always remember, that's your context. If you get an invitation out, you have to study the church that you're going to. One of the things I think we make a mistake about is saying, well, they invited me.
Right.
Well, they did, right? But they also want you to respect the house. Because what you don't want is for God to give you this great word, and because you're so stuck on how you dress that people don't hear you.
Right.
So I think letting your pastor, he or she, set the tone to knowing where you're going.
Yeah, that's good. And I think too, it's safe. Sometimes I've even asked if I wasn't
for sure.
Somebody invited me to preach out, or if it was a youth day, I didn't, sometimes they say, no, we still in suits, or they say we in a t-shirt.
Yes.
This pains me to admit, but one Sunday I was preaching in Chicago. I might put the picture on here, but I came suit because I asked the pastor, what we wearing, and he said, I would just wear a suit. Come to find out, everybody else in the church was wearing t-shirts for the day, and so he gave me a t-shirt, and I don't know why, but I kept my whole suit on. I put the t-shirt over over my shirt and tie, but it was a regular crew neck t-shirt, so I was looking crazy, man. It was bad. It was bad.
So I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you share your age publicly?
Yeah.
How old
24.
are you? 24. Yeah. All right, let me say this at 40 and 24. This is great conversation. I get that you felt out of place because you're like, dang, Rev, you could have told me I could have worn my jeans and the t-shirt, right? However, what that said to not the youth you were speaking to, but maybe the trustee who was cutting your check.
Yeah.
This young man takes what he does serious.
Sure.
Because only really and I'm using our profession, right? Our calling, our profession, can now the preacher, pastor walk in the room and nobody knows who she is. When you go to a hospital, you know who the physician is because the physician wears their white coat.
Talk. When
you go into the courthouse, you know who the judge is because they're going to always have on their robe.
Talk.
I think at some point, I get we want to be stylish and we want to be relatable, but I think, again, it's nothing wrong with having a uniform.
Yes, sir.
And that uniform looks different in different contexts, but I think I was using the point that you put on the t-shirt, but you still kept on.
Sure.
Right. And I think even that says a little bit that I am with you, but there is a weight and a level that comes with this office that I'm not with you.
Yeah. I consider myself rebuked.
No rebuke. No. Because there is this wrestle, and you can spend hours really wrestling with what to wear.
Literally.
Do I wear a robe? Do I don't? But let's think about the flip side of that, right? Let's say if you would have thought it's a youth day, I'm gonna wear jeans.
Ripped jeans at that.
Ripped jeans and a t-shirt, and you get there.
Yeah.
And they got on the suit.
Yeah.
Now you ain't got no jacket to put on, right? Yeah. So you can this is a great segue. Flesh and Blood didn't reveal that to you.
That's right.
You can always dress a suit down.
Yes, sir.
You cannot dress jeans up if you're not prepared for it.
Sir.
So I think there's always a safety net. Keep a sports coat, like a gray or black sports coat, in your car.
Yep. Yep.
You know, I think that's a safe, or in your office or wherever, whatever your mode of operation is.
No, that's good. And I think one of the main takeaways from this is just context matters.
Context matters.
Know your context.
Our Pentecostal brothers and sisters, they go for the kill when it comes to their conventions, from 12 all the way to.
Let me tell you something. I'm hesitant to even go to sir. I ain't gonna name the name, but y'all know who we're talking about. I'm not going until I get a certain amount of suits looking at.
Sure.
You ain't about to talk about me and my little basic old navy blue suit, but there is a certain level.
Sure.
And we joking, but it's all love. Like we really do. Like y'all be stepping.
No, sister. One of my close friends, Pastor Superintendent Nathaniel Green, who's now over the AIM convention, invited. This was a few years ago. Matter of fact, it was the first year that the convention, Church of God in Christ convention, was in St. Louis, and our other brother, Pastor John Moore, was like the inspirational speaker. Okay. So of course I'm going to support the homie.
Yeah.
And so we were on the phone, and John kept saying, Akeem, make sure you pack a suit. I'm like, John, I'm not Kojic. It's a 10 o'clock service.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm coming in jeans and a polo, right? He was like, you can't do that. So we're walking, this is a true story. We're walking through the convention center, and everybody's, hey, Pastor Moore, and people are looking at me like, is this your armor bearer, your driver? And I'm like, I got suits at home, and I really wanted to be comfortable, right? It was a late night service. And I did have a suit for the next day, and when I put on my suit, it was a whole different kind of feel, right? But again, that's the context, and I think you don't ever want to be seen as a rebel.
Right.
If you're going to go to a said place, you want to honor or you got to feel okay with the critique or the rebuke that comes with it, right? Yeah. If you go somewhere and you got on a suit, it gets you privileges. People want to, are you a pastor or not? If you're going there looking like a regular member, you can't be upset when they put you in the balcony. And I know that we shouldn't judge, but going back to business versus church, how you go to places matter. How you walk on a plane.
Yes.
How you go to a car dealership.
Yes.
All of those things matter. And I know we say looks don't matter and it's just perception, but it matters how people, at least it will disarm people, because if you have taken time to invest in getting dressed, people will at least look at how they want to deal. You're teaching people how to approach you.
I think that was a pivotal word, disarm people.
Yep.
You disarm me. Especially when we're going out to preach at certain places, we got to remember that we're there to serve.
Yes.
We're not there to make statements and be controversial, but you want to submit to the house, know, and do the best that you can to serve. And for me and for you, wearing something that's presentable, that fits within the house, that's just is fitting. And I think it's just, it helps us in the long run, because you don't have to fight, like you said, to disarm the people, right? If everybody else wearing suits, you got a suit, cool, you fit in. But if you come in there, like you said, with the ripped jeans, you're going to have some church mothers like, nah, he shouldn't have came in here. Yeah. And now they not even paying attention to what you're saying, because they're so distracted with what you're wearing. Like it or not, it's just the world. It's just the world we live in.
And you got to know what you want the takeaway to be. It's happened to me. I don't do a lot of, I'm going to say flashy for me when I have to preach. But I never forget one time I was preaching, I had this nice tie on. And afterwards, it was probably what I felt like was a great sermon. I'm saying that I felt like that people got saved. And this lady walked up to me. She was like, Rev, where you get that tie from? I want to buy one for my husband. I'm not saying she was not blessed by my sermon.
Right.
But she said nothing to me about my sermon. She wanted to know about that tie. And I felt for a moment deflated, because I was like, is that all you saw?
Yeah.
And it was a nice tie. But I was like, dang.
Yeah.
So it puts it in perspective. What do you want people to walk with? Yeah, Rev sure looked nice today.
But what he talk about?
I don't know, but that was a bad suit. I'm not, again, this is personal preference, right? Because you could be in a place where flashiness and that's relative, right? So we're not critiquing, we're just having a conversation. I think to your point, even if you and I walked in a place right now, I think both of us would be safe.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But I think this belongs in one place, and that's the church.
Nothing else to say after that. Thank y'all for tuning in. We stepping on some toes a little bit, but it's to help y'all. Y'all let us know what you think in the comment section. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you have not already, like, comment, share, subscribe, do all of those things. And we truly do greatly appreciate it. Until next time, peace.
Peace.